George Washington was born on February 22, 1732, in Westmoreland County, Virginia, in the British American colonies. He came from a modest family that was not wealthy but belonged to the landowning class, giving them a respectable social status. His father, Augustine Washington, was a landowner and worked in iron production, and his mother, Mary Ball Washington, was a determined and religious woman who had a strong influence on her children. George was the eldest child from his father's second marriage, and he had several brothers and sisters. From a young age, George showed signs of seriousness and a sense of responsibility. His early education was basic, focused on arithmetic, reading, and writing, but he did not attend college, like many others of his era, due to the death of his father when George was only 11 years old. This event forced him to grow up quickly and take on responsibilities beyond his age. As a teenager, he worked as a land surveyor in the vast forests and lands of Virginia. This job gave him valuable experience and exposed him to the realities of life in the colonies, from dealing with Native American tribes to understanding geography and the challenges of expansion and colonization. It also instilled in him a deep connection to the land and a spirit of independence and exploration. George grew up in a society that was experiencing rising tensions with British rule. The colonies were evolving and developing their identity, which planted the first seeds of patriotism in his heart. Although his beginnings were simple, the values he absorbed from his family, such as hard work, honesty, faith, and discipline, became the foundation upon which he built his later personality. As George Washington entered his youth, his leadership traits began to emerge clearly. He became familiar with the wilderness routes and the western frontiers of the colonies, making him an ideal candidate for exploratory and military missions in rugged territories. In 1752, after the death of his half-brother Lawrence Washington, who held a prominent military position, George joined the Virginia militia. He partly inherited his brother's status as well as his properties. After receiving swift military training, he was soon dispatched on dangerous reconnaissance missions, most notably his journey to the Ohio Valley, where the Virginia government tasked him with warning the French against expanding into disputed territories. It wasn't long before the 7 Years' War, known in America as the French and Indian War, broke out, and Washington took part in it with bravery. He led several military campaigns defending the British colonies against the French forces and their Native American allies. Despite his initial lack of experience, his courage and ability to make tough decisions earned him the respect of both his superiors and fellow soldiers. One of the most notable moments during this period was the Battle of Monongahela in 1755, in which British General Braddock was killed, and Washington took command of the retreating troops amid chaos. He miraculously survived even though 2 bullets pierced his coat and many soldiers around him were killed. This event further enhanced his reputation as a brave hero. With an uncanny luck for survival after the war ended, Washington returned to civilian life and focused on managing his estate at Mount Vernon, which he inherited from his brother. There he continued working as a farmer and social figure. In 1759, he married the wealthy widow, Martha Custis, who had 2 children, though the couple did not have children of their own. Washington raised Martha's children as if they were his own. During these years, his interest in politics grew, especially as tensions between the colonies and Britain increased. He believed that imposing taxes without fair representation in the British Parliament was unjust, and became known for his strong views. On the rights of the colonists, he gradually became more involved in political activities, and was elected to the Virginia House of Burgesses, where he expressed his support for liberty and colonial rights, becoming one of the leading patriotic voices of the time. Thanks to his experience as a land surveyor, after completing 2 presidential terms, George Washington decided to retire from political life in 1797. He returned to his estate at Mount Vernon, where he intended to spend the rest of his days in peace. His retirement years were relatively quiet, spent managing his personal affairs and receiving visitors. He remained a highly respected figure in the hearts of Americans. In the 1799, Washington caught a severe cold after inspecting his plantation in cold and rainy weather. Despite receiving medical attention, his condition worsened rapidly, and he passed away on the evening of 12/14, 1799. At the age of 67, surrounded by his family and close companions, George Washington was buried in a private tomb at Mount Vernon, which later became a national shrine visited by thousands of people each year. His death brought sorrow across the United States, and world leaders mourned him as a symbol of freedom and dignity. And so we've reached the end of today's story. This was the tale of a great man and a shrewd politician. He is George Washington. And finally, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell to stay updated.